Roy Keane. Roy Keane was finding a way. Noted Chelsea hater was finding a way to say positive things. He mentioned that Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez were, quote, absolutely outstanding. All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode. That's right, of the London is Blue podcast, part of the Minute Bladers Media Network. That's right. You got a little WrestleMania vibe on the walk out to the pitch at Villa Park for the players. And Nick Verlaney cannot control himself. No Brandon tonight. Dan, one of your other hosts here. And we are going to be talking about Chelsea advancing in the FA Cup, taking a road win at Villa Park, not something many teams can claim this season, and doing so in fine form to bounce back after a disappointing result against Wolves. But general, off the top rope, Nick, seems like you're feeling really good about how Chelsea got on.
Yeah, it was our best performance of the season. I mean, if you didn't enjoy that, I don't know what you're doing supporting this club. It was comprehensive, top to bottom, and for everything that had been, I think, rightfully talked about, for the reasonablists among us, it was a phenomenal response to an incredibly bad day out on Sunday, and it's what you want to see. It's what you want to see. The team responding, the team playing together, the team kind of shutting up some of the more ludicrous stuff that was out there over the last couple of days. So, yeah, for the reasonablest among us, great day.
You can't be a Chelsea fan if you didn't enjoy that result, to throw a little double negative in there. But we would love to get into this one, and we always do it at the top with the three-word match review. Nick, I'm going to hand the reins to you to walk us through this little, in case you missed it, summary based upon some supporter reactions that we have.
Of course, after a result like this, the three-word match reviews are always fantastic. And so we thank so many of you for putting them in. We can't do 4.5 hours on just three-word match reviews. So Dan cherry-picked his favorites. If it was me cherry-picking them, it would all be alliteration. So here we go. Vinny Villa Vici, a little Roman Empire right there from Southeast Blues. Arthur Peoples with Villains Liquidated Tonight. Some effing emo is the handle there. That's pretty cool. Blue effing Wednesdays, screenshotting both the Chelsea women's 5-0 result in the Conti Cup over Sunderland and the Chelsea men, of course, advancing against Villa 3-1. Tana overall, we love cups. Let's do it. Kate Price, of course, with capable of winning, capable being a key word from the presser. And so well done there, Kate. Nicholas Gomez with future is now ? Okay. Lots of really positive stuff here. Golden Iris with Cup Team Swagger. Sith Lord Ryan with FA Cup Heritage. And Dan Dormer, what would yours be?
I went with Enzo to Enzio, because that was quite the night from him. Not just the free kick, but overall a really strong performance. And look, I think I'm not going to spoil it, but there's a shithouse moment of the match from you that we're going to be talking about quite extensively. But I'd love to hear what you went with.
Can't predict unpredictable. This team is. I'm done predicting what comes next, and I don't know. You would have thought heading into this one, all the odds against us, playing a strong team on the road. It should have probably done the job in the first leg. All the negative vibes, all the bad press, all the people making shit up, and they go out and throw a no-hitter, basically. And you're like, okay, I guess. So that's where I'm at.
That feels about right, as Aston Villa were certainly the favorites pre-match in any of the conversations and any of the broadcasts that you were watching or listening to. They very much were being exalted, being propped up as the presumptive winners and individuals to face Leeds in the next round of the Cup. But that did not come to pass, and we are going to get into all of the nitty and gritty details of the match. Before that, we just want to say thank you to our amazing community people. Again, if you're just joining us now after we've joined the Men in Blazers Media Network, we welcome you to this wonderful community. We would definitely appreciate leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can get subscribed on YouTube as well. We are about 30 or 40 people away from hitting 30,000 on there in terms of total subscribers. You are just
baby. Come
fired up tonight. We also love you hit the bell icon and get notified, and also like and comment on the videos too. You can join our conversation in our free or paid version of Discord, and then you can sign up for our wonderful free newsletter, which if you didn't sign up before today, you're going to miss the one dropping on Thursday and maybe a special edition on Friday as well. But again, this is the Aston Villa match review. It was this past Wednesday, February the 7th in the FA Cup at Villa Park. It was Matt Law's Aston Villa 1-3 to Chelsea.
You're going to do him like that, huh? He's not even here to defend himself. You're just going to, all right, there we go.
Throw it in there real quick. Goals came from the Conor Gallagher Condog in the 11th minute with Madueke an assist. He also had to give Nico Jackson a little love there too, because he played a big role in that one. The 21st minute, Nico Jackson, though, gets his own after... what an assist from Malo Gusto. Absolutely delectable cross. Enzo with his free kick in the 54th minute to do his countrymen dirty. And then you had the 90 plus first minute. Diaby decided, you know what? We can't let Chelsea have a clean sheet. That would just be a bridge too far. But Nick, as we advance, let's talk about the lineups. Let's talk about how Pochettino decided to set up. And he did make a couple of changes versus the side that started and lost to Wolves.
Yeah, we had talked about, would they go 3 at the back? There was some, I think Naz wrote an article that was, potentially being considered. And then, you rolled out basically another 4-2-3-1. And my initial reaction was kind of sadness, but then the performance kind of turned that around. So Georgi Petrovic, of course, in between the sticks, continues to do the business for Chelsea. A back four of Ben Chilwell, Benoit Badiashile, Axel Disasi, French connection in the middle there, and Malo Gusto on the right. You have Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo in the middle. Nicholas Jackson, left winger, potentially the best left winger at the club. We'll discuss. Conor Gallagher, Noni Madueke make up your attacking three, with Cole Palmer resuming his role as whatever the hell we need him to do at any given point. Substitutions of Raheem Sterling in the 75th minute, Thiago Silva in the 81st minute, Alfie Gilchrist in the 87th minute, i.e. the closer, and Christopher Nkunku in the 87th minute, with one just delightful, delectable, delicious touch from a ball over the top. Unused subs, Lucas Bergstrom, Marcus Bettinelli, Betts back on the bench, there we go. Samuel Smith, Chukwuemeka almost gets the cameo against his former club, so close. And then Mykhailo Mudryk. And I think overall, lots of green numbers here on the Sofa Score scorecard, maybe even lower scores than you would have anticipated after a dominant performance. But there we go.
Well, when we look at the top line stats, Chelsea had 51% of the possession in this one to the 49. Not often villains at Villa Park giving away that much possession. We had 15 shots each, but 8 of ours were on target to their 5, 4 shots off target to their 5, and they had 5 block shots. Axel Disasi coming up big in a few of those. We had 3 though in total. They had 7 corner kicks to our 5. They were offsides twice to our none. That is quite wonderful there. We had 15 fouls and 2 yellow cards. They had 13 fouls and 1 yellow card. More free kicks for them, 15 to our 12. We had, though, 3 big chances, only converting 1. We missed 2 of them. They had 0 big chances. So when you look at the fact that they had tons of shots, a couple shots on target, but no big chances, that tells you how well Chelsea defended as a unit in this one. We also had 10 of our shots coming from inside the box. That's right. We got close and we took a shot, Nick. It was quite wonderful to see.
You can do that?
It is allowed. It is not against the rules. Also not against the rules is Petrovic coming up with 4 goalkeeper saves, and it was 5 from Emi, who did get a couple hands on ones that maybe could have gone in. Maybe one bounce, go a different way. Our one random stat. This comes from Squawka, and it's a fun tweet because it talks about, did Chelsea reach the FA Cup fifth round from 2000 all the way to 2024? And it's really the fact that Chelsea have only failed to reach the FA Cup fifth round in 3 seasons since the year 2000. That's 2011, 2015, and 2023. So Chelsea resuming normal order in advancing to the fifth round of the FA Cup. But Nick, I'm going to let you do it. I'm going to let you talk about your favorite moment of the match, the MPET shithouse moment.
We're going moments today, Dan. That's
moments.
How good this was. Well, we have something to make up after after not having some shithouse moments for the last couple of weeks.
Fair.
So, we're just going to stack them all together. Of course, the Enzo goal celly is epic. I mean, I think it was you tweeting from the account today. Maybe I'm not putting words in your mouth, but this was a very acceptable yellow card. The immediate shirt off. It was a perfect goal. It's unsavable. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Takes the shirt off, puts it down, points to him. I'm here. That's what I'm doing. And then Nico Jackson with the little bow down right in the corner. Conor Gallagher looking shocked with the wow. The whole thing was fucking epic. And it was a moment where you're like, wow, this group does look together despite some of the other narrative that's going on behind the scenes. So really, really good. The other thing that I loved about this game, the injury stoppages, quote unquote injury stoppages that happened late in the game to break up the Villa momentum. What a phenomenal job these guys did. Excellent yellow card from Petrovic in like the 75th minute. Caicedo going down after getting kneed in the butt. There was I don't know if you guys noticed this, but Poch using confusion during the substitutions. Which one should we put it? I've never seen a substitution before. It's like I always go back to when Reece James forgets he has arms when the ball's thrown at him and the ball just kind of hits off his chest and goes away, and then he has to go grab it and then brings it back. I love all that stuff. That's great. And then the third one, Nico Jackson is just shithouse. He is just shithouse. There were a couple of moments where the ball was supposed to be with us, and I think who is it? Carlos on their side just wouldn't give it back, and Nico was hacking at it, and then they got into a shoving match, and then he did the thing that I am starting to love about him. He pulled away. He didn't go full yellow card. He didn't do it. He's learning a little bit. He's growing in the dark side of the magic that's happening. So all three of these things were excellent. I'm sure there are more that you, the listener, can pull out that you're like, how did Nick forget that? But all contributed to a very, very, very good win.
Yeah, not many complaints on the night, and certainly an opportunity to give a little bit more praise for Chelsea engaging in some of those dark arts that we know and love. But we're going to take our first break and we'll get back. Good to talk about how that was for a response, the midfield domination, particularly, and the rebound and the return of Nico Jackson. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, the big question, Nick, how is that, or how was that, for a response from Chelsea, particularly after the weekend? Feels to me like we talk about this idea that they're a yo-yo side. It's a little bit of a roller coaster, whatever analogy you want to use for things that seesaw back and forth. This Chelsea side was the good version, the good variant of what we know it can be with sustained time and opportunity. And Chelsea got it done.
Yeah, I mean, straight out of the gate today, energy, closing down, getting into passing lanes, disrupting their midfield. Like, not even the really good first half that I'm sure we're going to get into and player stuff, but just like the general vibe of the team. Like, I was kind of walking into this match dreading it, to be really honest about it. Like, I thought, hey, credit to Villa. They've been really good this year. They have a experienced side. Their average age is 28 years. Ours is 23. They are starting to really show what they can do. And maybe you're a little bit injury bugged right now, but they've been amazing at home in the Premier League too. And so all signs going into this game were that Chelsea were going to struggle. I think that would be fair to say. The narrative the last 2 days in the media has been awful. There are people making shit up about the state of affairs behind the scenes. There are people misreporting information that is not what it is. There are people claiming that Enzo Fernandez wants out when his agent came back today and said, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like, it's been bad, right? I think the vibe has been bad. And I think if you were a person who listened to our show on Monday and you're like, yeah, it's bad, but maybe it will get better, or maybe we can just kind of ride it out, you feel pretty vindicated today. If you're a burn the ships person, you're probably questioning what the hell has gone on here. But we'll get into Pacha's comments later, but it certainly felt like, for all the stuff that we were hearing behind the scenes, Dan, that the team got together and said, fuck this. We can play better than what we just played against Wolves, and we're going to show people, and that's the way it's going to be. And they did. It was pure energy and enthusiasm. It was great to see.
Yeah, real strong intensity. I think to what you talked about, the fact that you had both Palmer and Gallagher kind of swapping in and out, pressing forward together. Very interesting. More of a 4-4-2 in terms of how it played, kind of committing all those attackers forward, which is a little different than what we've seen previously. So I want to focus, you mentioned Enzo. I want to talk about the midfield first, because we look at the last match against Wolves. A lot of the criticism was, what's Enzo doing? What's Caicedo doing? Gallagher's going out. Is he trying to get himself fouled out of this game? It was just a little bit of a disconnected performance. And I think this was the time, particularly with some of the changes in the defense, we saw Roy Keane. Roy Keane was finding a way. Noted Chelsea hater was finding a way to say positive things. He mentioned that Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez were, quote, absolutely outstanding, quote, on the night. Like, that is, I don't know if you can find better praise than what we could say if you're looking to the haters and they're opening their eyes to say, yeah, this is actually really, really good. Rebound performance for the ages in terms of how they got on. All three of them finding a way in different ways to impact. I'll let you take it off of any one of those three, but some of the best performances individually and maybe the best performance as a unit.
Yeah, you know how good you have to be for Roy Keane to say that you were good? I mean, I've seen Roy Keane slate people who had like a 10 out of 10 before and be like, well, I don't know about the energy and enthusiasm. Like, that's pretty special stuff. I think Kaz Carney was a little bit more, a little less cool on Chelsea than Roy was today. So, yeah, look, I think I talked about this on the Monday show. Getting the midfield right has to be priority number one for Chelsea. That you have invested too much time, energy, and money into these players to not create a system for them to thrive. And when you create a system for them to thrive and they thrive, that's what can happen. They absolutely unequivocally destroyed Villa's midfield. A midfield which, by the way, has not been a bunch of idiots out there. They've been good this year. That midfield has been really, really solid. So the fact that Enzo and Caicedo and Gallagher, who, I agree was more of a pressing forward in this game, but did drop back and did make a lot of defensive plays, were able to absolutely overwhelm them at every turn, play around them, play through them, didn't matter. It was extraordinary. I'll start with Gallagher and then you can take whoever you want next. But honest to God, I was a little bit worried about him after the last one. He looked super frustrated, looked a little, kind of in his own head. I can't imagine what getting that goal meant for him in this one. It was like the weight of the world looked like it was lifted off of his shoulders. And more than the goal, because I know other people were calling this out, producer Jay called this out in our group chat, he broke up 3 or 4 counters that had danger written all over him. And he was doing the defensive side of the job too. He was pressing forward, but he was also dropping back into those like half spaces, collecting the ball, winning the ball back, distributing, being unselfish. as he normally is. I really, really thought this was an outstanding performance from Gallagher. And his heat map is all over the fucking place. It's not just up top. It's everywhere. He's tracking all the way back to right back to left back. He's doing a job. So I was really, really pleased for him, not only to get the goal, but to put in the total performance that he did. Outstanding.
Yeah, he definitely had a good night in terms of the way that he was contributing. A little bit of it's Lee Parker talked about when he was interviewing post-match, belated birthday gift that he was able to notch there. When I look at the positioning differences between Enzo in this match and Caicedo, what was nice to see was the fact that they really had clear areas of the pitch that they were trying to operate in. And so you look at where Caicedo was, he was really able to live in that deepest role of that midfield combination, close to the defense, really connecting and organizing with them. And Enzo had a lot more freedom to stay further forward. Again, not so far forward that he's getting caught up, doesn't find space, but can really be a connector, established, doesn't have to go as far a distance. I mean, look, he's not. There are many people on our team who have a strong acceleration. Enzo is not the individual with that in spades. He has other things in his locker, like some incredible free kick skills. But he did a good job in this of advancing further forward, being deep and bringing it up to give people like Ben Chilwell or Nico Jackson an opportunity to advance further forwards. That left-hand side in general, where Enzo was spending time in, really, really looked bright. And I think, Nick, from a Caicedo perspective, we saw some fouls in the last game where it's like, yeah, this wasn't a great one to make, getting caught off a little bit. This felt like the high intensity, good blocks, good interceptions, finding a way to be a partner to Disasi and Benoit Badiashile, and that triangle that they were creating gave them all got a little bit of added comfort from the way that they played.
Spacing was much, much better, right? Triangles that were being created much, much better. The two wingers, Madueke and Jackson, kept positional discipline and track back tonight, which was part of the reason why we were able to play out of their press, right? We were creating angles to get the ball out. And then once we were in transition, it was like full go, right? But that doesn't happen if Caicedo's passing isn't immaculate. And it was tremendous, especially playing out of pressure. There were some, like, him and Palmer had a couple of just lobbed balls through Villa defenders that I was like, wow. Under pressure, you got to have some stones to do that, and it came off. Again, I think every one of our midfielders did something different. Enzo contributed today with an outrageous passing performance, and some pretty decent ball movement, just carrying the ball forward, carrying into dangerous areas, making off the ball runs, like some of that stuff too. But outrageous passing night, and obviously the shot is absolutely unstoppable. If the ball is an inch further, it hits the corner of the goal. It's perfect.
The thing that you mentioned just a moment ago, you talked about the fact that our wingers had an opportunity to play out of the press. We're able to get forward. There are also a couple of times, depending on how the overload was going, whether it was on the left or on the right, you would see Madueke in a ton of space. You would see Jackson in a ton of space. And that wasn't happening in some of the earlier matches too, where we weren't able to dictate or move the ball around from side to side. We were playing very much either on one side of the pitch and completely ignoring the other. This was not that game. This is a game where we found value on both sides. We advanced the ball forward quickly. Both Gusto and Chilwell were positive contributors and got the support they needed from Jackson and from Madueke to be comfortable advancing the ball forward, being a little bit more aggressive, creating those opportunities. You asked the question earlier. Someone asked it as we talk about our wingers. Is Nico Jackson the best left wing player at Chelsea right now?
I mean, I think between this and his performance against Luton before he went to AFCON, you could make a really strong case. He was extraordinary tonight. I think I would put him up there in my man of the match, even though he didn't make the final list. Kept space really well, stayed on side all night, was an outlet, tracked back, helped out Chilwell, who we know didn't have a banner game against Wolves, shithoused, made difficult cutting runs, probably should have, like, Diego Carlos should have been red carded for as many fouls he had on Jackson today. And you look at all of that and the way that it positively contributed to the overall attack, right? Yes, probably is a little lucky for the header because I don't know if he knew a ton about it, but who fucking cares? When in the back of the net, he has 9 goals in the season now, right? If he gets to 15, 16 goals this season, that's a really fucking great return for a guy who we weren't that sure about. I think he does play better off the left. I think he sees the field better off the left. And if it means that Nkunku has to play that like faux forward role, okay, sounds good. I'm in. So yeah, I think we've seen enough of Sterling and Mudryk to call those experiments what they are right now. I would throw Jackson in there. He does some of the hard work. He doesn't lollygag back. He's learning how to keep his temper at an appropriate level. I was super thrilled with his performance. That I really was. And Madueke on the other side, Dan, I thought was fantastic as well. We saw a little bit more graft out of him today.
Yeah, good performance from him. I mean, I think he might feel like he could have gotten a little bit more in terms of the getting a goal or something. He had some space, he had some opportunity. Look, the assist for Connor's goal again. I mean, that was Jackson, into Madueke, who gets it into Connor. Like, it was a really good team effort to create that opportunity and the unselfish thing to do. To not take a bad shot and rather set somebody else up who has a way better angle, who's running into the box, who's going to get an opportunity to convert it. And discipline in where he was located, ends up getting 3 total shots on the night, had really accurate kind of pass movement, dribbled generally well, 3 successes out of 5. 5 ground duels, 1 out of 9 attempted. I mean, didn't lose possession a ton relative to maybe how he's done previously in other games. So more comprehensive night from him. And I feel like you're seeing a settling because we know that Nkunku is not fully healthy yet. That's why he's not getting like the full start. Or we're obviously trying to kind of nurse him back in. But it feels like the 4 attackers that you could start to circle around for the remainder of the season that are going to be more reliable. And with the fact that we're going to move to less games that have a 3 to 5 day reset time, but have that full week reset time, outside of the fact that like the FA Cup is now 5th round is a weird midweek one too. I think ultimately you'll find Palmer, Jackson, Nkunku, Madueke, to me, are those 4 that if I were Poch, I would settle on and say, look, Sterling and Mudryk are going to be my impact sub opportunity, but those are the 4 that I'm going to settle around initially. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the sort of tough decision that he can start to make, knowing that he has an opportunity now to get to the sixth round of the FA Cup, to get to the final 8, has an opportunity to still win a domestic trophy in the League Cup final. Like, these are serious opportunities for him, and showing confidence, showing support, showing a true commitment to the attackers who are adding value, who are disciplined in defense and not just in attack, I think is going to be a really, really important part of that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think if you are an attacker that has struggled to help the attack, you were kind of put on notice today. Because the last 2 times that Jackson's played on the left wing, we've scored 3 goals and looked really complete. And that's been with Cole Palmer as our striker, who none of us saw that coming at the start of the year. But, you think about Nkunku, his pedigree alone is going to get him games. Palmer is undroppable. Although you do worry about him getting tired because he's been relied on so fucking much. But Madueke is probably the next person right underneath that. Good luck getting Gallagher out of the team. Yeah, if you're Sterling or Mudryk, it looks like a pretty long list in front of you.
When you think about it, Cole Palmer is 19 goals and assists across all competitions this season. Very, very close to 20, which is going to be a really, really cool thing to see him accomplish with plenty of time to spare left in the season. Raheem Sterling still is second on 12 total. Nico Jackson, FBref is one behind at the moment because they don't have the data from the Villa match in there. But he will be on 11. So he's one behind Raheem Sterling now in terms of total goals and assists. Conor Gallagher will jump up to 7 total with the goal plus his 6 assists. Mykhailo Mudryk actually is right behind him. He'll be tied with Enzo at 6 apiece. Mudryk with a couple of assists, 2 and 4 goals in total. And then Enzo will be all goals, no assists, which is probably the more interesting thing. 6 goals.
Connor all assists, basically, and Enzo all goals.
Well, Enzo needs one more, and he'll match his contribution that he had in the Benfica season where he played 22 matches. So since the move from River Plate, that would be his, I would say 7. If he can get to 10, that's going to be potentially his best senior league season that he would have in one of the top 5 European leagues. And then you get into Malagusto, Madueke, who will jump up to 5 on the night, 4 goals, one assist. So you're starting to see, again, you might be considered harsh against Mudryk or Sterling, but it's saying look, Cole is the undroppable one, and Kunku is the one that doesn't have the data yet, but you would argue based upon what he could do in a couple minutes, just finding a goal out of nowhere, he has to kind of land in. Jackson is the other one that you have to find a way to get in. So those are your main 3. And then it's the question of the Madueke, Mudryk, Sterling. It might feel harsh to Sterling or Mudryk, but again, I think it's going to be a hot hand situation. And if Madueke is the hot hand, I don't see Poch deviating in this moment. I think he talked about this idea of consistency very heavily. And this is going to be the togetherness challenge that he's going to have and they're going to have, keeping these players happy when maybe they're not getting selected, even though they think they deserve starting minutes.
Also, it's not just the attacking output that matters for the wing, right? It's the defensive contribution. And Sterling and Mudryk are both passengers defensively. They are. It's not saying they can't get better. It's not saying that they won't get better. But, I've watched Raheem Sterling lightly jog back on defense more times than I count, and it's not good enough. It's not the way that the team's set up to play. The team is high intensity, high pressure. You're going to get that from Jackson. Madueke is adjusting. He'll get better too. I wouldn't say that he's an expert at it either, but Palmer is. And Kunku will do that job. Gallagher certainly will do that job. It's what sort of style do you want to play? I like the idea of having kind of 2, playing that 4-2-2-2 or 4-4-2, whatever the hell it is, as long as you can cover the fullbacks, right? Because they're also asked to get forward. And if they get forward and lose the ball and there's a huge gap with one of our center backs, that's where we get into trouble all the time. So it can't happen. You have to have positional discipline if you're on the wing.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about the defense and how Poch enjoyed the evening afterwards, some of his post-match commentary, very insightful. But we're going to do that after our final ad break, so stay tuned and we'll be right back. So, Nick, there were some people, when I was reading the comments afterwards, who felt like the defense didn't have a good night out, which felt like an odd assessment to me in a game where really, if not for Post as the best attacker on the Villa side, they don't necessarily have a goal to count for on the evening. So I thought it was a good night overall for the defense. Definitely a great rebound against an attack that in general has been very good in the Premier League this season. I know they were missing a couple of key players when it comes to their defense, but it wasn't like they were doing a lot of second choice attackers. Ollie Watkins was there, McGinn was there, Leon Bailey was there. They were rolling out with a strong attack to take this to Chelsea. So I felt like this was a rebound. And I felt like the partnership between Disasi and Badiashile, the French connections you mentioned earlier, ended up paying some dividends.
Yeah, I thought they were just fine. That's especially important because neither one's covering themselves in glory lately with their performances. I mean, look, Disasi's been asked to do a hell of a lot more than Badiashile this year. He's been asked to play right back. He's been asked to get forward. He's been asked to score goals. Badiashile's just getting back from injury and has looked super shaky since doing so. But yeah, Villa had 15 shots. How many of those actually really troubled us? Not many. And the goal they scored was kind of fluky. I was really, really bummed that we didn't get the clean sheet because I thought the defensive performance deserved that. And so that's a real bummer. But I can't imagine that if you're watching that game that you're disappointed in the defensive display. Chilwell had a much better night. Gusto had an interesting defensive night. I think he was a little risky in some of the decisions he made, but I think settled in on the second half. I am not mad about that after what we just watched on Sunday against Wolves.
Look, not conceding 4 is a really good place to be.
Sure.
Not conceding 3 or 2 is a really good place to be. And not conceding, I would say, at all would have been ideal. But ultimately, to your point, 90 plus first minute, again, made some substitutions. I don't think the subs got in and necessarily quickly adapted to the fact that Villa were going to go try and do something. Whereas we were trying to basically see it out and not get injured, waste a little time. And so sometimes I think the slip happens, right? The mental focus just drifts a little bit because you're just trying to get it done and see it out and not get injured before, effectively, a game against Crystal Palace that's extremely important for Chelsea. It doesn't always feel like that should be an important game for us, but we need 3 points in the Premier League. And it's going to be a very important fixture for us on Monday. I thought Disasi came up with some really strong blocks. I think that he was very committed into where he's at. I think Badiashile gave Chilwell a lot of the support that he needed to feel comfortable and vice versa. And then you mentioned the interesting style of defending that Gusto had. I mean, I think that he doesn't always get himself into a good position, right? So he has to definitely use the physical attributes he has, particularly with his ability to get back to make some tackles, some slide tackles that are very aggressive. But I mean, that is his game. Like, it's his game. Like, I can't question the fact that you're going to have the push and pull, right? The push is, hey, he's really good getting forward, had a great assist, but if he's going to commit forward, he's going to have to make up some distance occasionally. And that's going to mean a more interesting tackle or challenge that isn't always going to look great, but that is what he's capable of doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think my issue is when both him and Chilwell go, it leaves a ton of vulnerability. And typically, Villa have exploited that vulnerability incredibly well with Watkins and Bailey and, all the different weapons that they have. They just weren't able to tonight. Look, do I think that Gusto's going to become a better, more comprehensive defender as he gets more opportunities? I do. No doubt. What he brings in offense is incredible. I mean, the ball he puts in, for the second goal is epic. Some of his passing out of difficult situations, epic. Some of his closing down, really, really good. I just want to see the positioning be a little bit better because you're leaving Badiashile and Chilwell's leaving, or you're leaving Disasi and Badiashile a lot of work to do. And lately that has not been a good thing. So, tiny nit to pick out of a really good performance. Again, I think we deserve the clean sheet, but 3-1 win. Defense played a lot better. Closed down Ollie Watkins all game. He didn't have shit to do. Nah, we're good.
So that leads us to Pochettino, who definitely looked excited at full time, definitely was feeling himself a little bit more at the end of this all. Was able to do a little bit of a stand up routine, to your point, with some of the substitutions. What is a substitution? His post match press conference, he was on ITV. He was interviewed by Lee Parker. He had his full post match press conference for the English media and print and online. And he had some comments. I don't know which one you want to go with first. I enjoyed the fact that he brought it back to this idea that it is togetherness. It is a young side. This isn't the Chelsea of old, which I know does not always land the right way with supporters. And I think it is tough sometimes to say, well, we're not this team that just rolls out and wins every weekend and is not a team of, 15, international captains who, come in and absolutely play a blinder and can 1-0 any team in the world. This is a young team. This is a season of trying to figure out how to take the individual components and turn them into a group, to turn them into a team that can be competitive week in and week out. He talked to this idea that it's consistency now is the big challenge. It's not just the result on the day. It's about how do we stack these one on the other. I felt like it was more Chelsea than he had been in some of his past couple of press conferences. This idea that there is a club, there is a badge, there's an expectation, but we also have to kind of understand where we're at and grow together.
Yeah, I thought when he spoke about Enzo in particular, that was really fascinating. He said Enzo moved to England over a little over a year ago, not having a break in 2.5 seasons, new language, new culture, and he's like, I think he said something to the effect of, "I don't want to annoy you," and he's looking at the journalists, but these things take time. Like they do. And I think he understands that at Chelsea, you're not afforded a whole lot of time. He would know that if he read any headline or any story post Sunday, that the frustration is real, that it's there, that if, that Wolves' performance should not be replicated again. But, I think he looked more in control of that press room. And I also think the more people see him talk, the easier his giving him a break is going to be. I'm not one to give the Chelsea media team any advice because I don't do their job. But if they were to listen to this, let them do more of that. Let him do more explanation. Don't I know that English is not his first language, and that there are some points of that where he's looking for the right word or the right phrase. If you're listening to his press conferences, just listen for the key stuff. Listen for how he teaches, what his philosophy is, how he thinks about the game. I think it's easy to do after you win. Obviously, it's harder to do after you lose, but we saw a little bit of a different side of him today in the post-match press conference. It was a little bit more philosophical, a little bit more mission-oriented, what he's here to do, the project. He's probably come more close to defining the project than the owners or the sporting directors have. And that is difficult on 100 levels. But I think, if you're not a burn the ships person, that was probably a really good press conference to listen to.
Yeah, just a general good comments. I think, and kept a consistent beat. Really trying to help define what the expectation, what the level is, where the players need to be. I think he, Chilwell, Gallagher, all of their post match press conference commentary was about the importance of the supporters, the amount of support that they get and how they appreciate that. How they appreciate it has been a tough moment for us watching some of these results. And I think as much as we decry the Instagram post or the Twitter comments from a player after there's a loss, the way they talk about it after a win like that, after a bounce back, that feels like the right time, the right tone, the right moment to share what they need from us, what they're looking for, and how we can kind of support them back. I mean, we heard so many different songs coming through the broadcast. Like, hey, how shit must you be? We're winning away. We heard the Bema Shield. We heard a little Thiago Silva's. He was warming up even after the Bell Silva breakdown. Like we were getting all the hits tonight.
Yeah, the away fans were excellent tonight. I'm sorry it took us until the minute 45 of this podcast to say that. They were out. They were by far the loudest supporters in that stadium. Incredible job. And I think I hope that the next home game, they get that sort of vibe going in the bridge too. Because it does matter. I know that we play at Palace next. But it has to help a young team to hear that wall of sound. So I hope they continue.
Well, I think that takes us to a day of the match because we haven't run one in a while. Because Chelsea have not done well.
Dust it off, huh?
I did dust it off. I said it feels like forever since we had a chance to run one of these. Look, no surprise with 83% of the vote. Enzo was absolutely running away with this one. But look, Conor Gallagher, 8% of the vote. Moises Caicedo, 5%. And Malo Gusto with 5% gets us our number there. I know you said Nico Jackson also could have been in here. I think Disasi had a block that was worth a goal. He could have been in here. The team could have been in here. Poch could have been a fun little wrinkle one to throw in here too. The away supporters in general, hard to pick when it was as comprehensive a performance as this, but the goal celebration, I think, for Enzo gave the people what they wanted and he runs away with it.
Yep. It's probably the right one. I would have had Jackson in here over Gusto personally, because I thought he was truly excellent. But yeah, it's a good problem to have when you have more than 4 options. So,
well, we were not the only FA Cup replay that was going on, though we did win at 3-1 against Aston Villa. Doesn't feel bad to say that one again. Southampton beat Watford 3-0. Leeds beating Plymouth Argyle and being our next opponent 4-1. Coventry beating Sheffield Wednesday 4-1 as well. And then Nottingham Forest getting it done over Bristol City win penalties 5-3. That was the round of results we saw to finalize in the next round of the FA Cup, Nick.
Yeah, we knew that it was likely going to be Leeds if we were to advance. That's a home game against Leeds. We were there last year when we played Leeds in the Premier League. It's spicy. It's fiery. We have been to Leeds away as well, so we know what that is like. God, I hope they go out there and just pummel them. Just go out and pummel them. And if you're looking for just like a little bit of extra history, go watch the 1970 second leg final. They had to play the final twice. That's how contentious this shit was. Go watch the second one. I think by modern referee standards, there were 9 red cards and something like 18 or 19 yellow cards in this game. It's a bloodbath. It is a fantastic watch. Of course, Chelsea win the cup and lift it. And yeah, go get your watch in ahead. I'm sure Little Famous CFC will be doing an episode prior to that one.
Well, look, if Chelsea can do the business and advance against Leeds, opposition in the next round could be teams like Liverpool or Southampton who play each other, Newcastle or Blackburn. Again, a lot of these very favorable draws for the Premier League sides in terms of being able to swerve. You had Leicester versus Bournemouth, Man City versus Luton, which feels very unfair to Luton. Coventry versus Maidstone is the interesting one. I think most Premier League teams will be looking to happily take on the winner of that fixture. And then Wolves versus Brighton, one of the other teams getting a Premier League versus Premier League matchup. But yeah, in general, Decent draw for Chelsea, not getting a Premier League side, though. If we look at Leeds, they're at least in a playoff spot right now in the Championship. 5 wins in a row, current form, currently sitting at 60 points, 1 point behind Southampton, who are trying to get back up as well. Three recently relegated teams all trying to get back up in Leicester, Southampton, and Leeds in the Championship right now, 1, 2, and 3. Plus 26 goal difference for them as well. So they are they're having fun in the Championship, that's for sure.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be intense. It'll be really intense, and it deserves to be. And I hope we absolutely smack them.
That match will be taking place much later in the month, so stay tuned for that one. Chelsea will be playing them on February 28th. Looks like it's going to be at 2:45 p.m. Eastern time. So that is exciting. That will do it for us, though, because there's nothing else to talk about in this one. Chelsea won. We're feeling great. The vibes are good, at least right now, until the yo-yo drops and gets pulled back up again. But Nick, any other thoughts before we get out of here?
Oh, win feels good. It's important, I think, in times of trial to use discernment when reading articles, reading bullshit. You guys are all smart enough to know what's real, what's not, what smells like bullshit, what doesn't. So there's been a lot of that over the last few days. Use your discernment, be smart, and don't predict the unpredictable.
Well, again, that's going to do it for this recap. Hopefully you're having a wonderful week wherever you are in the world, celebrating a Chelsea victory. We will be back with a match preview pod on Friday, getting ready for the Crystal Palace match, and plenty more content coming at you for the next week as well. So with that said, you know what to do, Chelsea fans. Keep the blue flag flying high.